A window open, a notebook in his hand, and a heart full of questions. He had been praying for years, praying for change, praying for a sign from God, but nothing changed. Every morning, the same Zion would wake up, look at the ceiling, and whisper, "Ya Allah, show me the way. Just give me a sign." But every morning he faced the same thing: silence. His phone had no job offers. His life had no direction. His heart had no peace. He felt stuck, like a bird locked in a cage. Everyone was moving. Ahead, Zion scrolled through his phone, friends getting married, cousins starting businesses, old classmates traveling abroad. Smiled on the outside. But inside? Why not me? Am I not praying enough? Am I not good enough? The letter to God, one evening, Zion couldn't take it anymore. He took his notebook and started writing, not to himself, but to God. "Ya Allah, I've waited so long. I've asked you again and again. Please, just show me if I should move or wait. Give me a clear sign, a dream, a voice, a door, something." He finished writing, and then waited. He looked around the room. He stared at the sky. He listened for something, anything, but again, nothing. The doubt. That night, lying in bed, Zion whispered, "Maybe I'm not chosen. Maybe God only speaks to some people, not me." Tears rolled down his face. He felt forgotten, invisible, like God had pressed the mute button on his life. A friend's voice. The next day, his friend Saad called. "Bro, you okay? You've been quiet lately." Zion didn't say much, but finally shared, "I just keep praying, but nothing's changing. I'm waiting for a sign, but maybe God's just silent." Saad paused, then said softly, "Maybe the silence is the sign." "What does that mean?" Zion was confused. What kind of sign comes in silence? Isn't a sign supposed to be clear, like a dream, or a miracle, or a random stranger saying, "Yes, you should go now," but silence? How is that an answer? Another ordinary day, the next morning, Zion walked to the corner shop. As he crossed the street, an old woman dropped her bag. Everyone passed her by. Zion bent down, picked up the items, and helped her to the bench. She smiled, touched his hand, and said, "Thank you, son. Kindness like yours is rare." Zion smiled weakly and walked away. He didn't know it yet. But that moment would return to him later, like a seed that grows silently. Back home, he sat again by the window, looking outside. A leaf fell from the tree. He watched it spin, fall, and rest on the ground. And something inside whispered, "Even the leaf falls with purpose. What makes you think your waiting is wasted?" But Zion didn't hear it clearly. His thoughts were louder. Night. Again, as the sky turned dark, Zion made wudu and prayed. This time, he didn't ask for a sign. He just said, "I don't know what you want from me, Ya Allah, but please, don't. Leave me. Even if you're silent, please stay near." His chest felt heavy. But a strange peace came too, soft and quiet. The dream that night, Zion had a strange dream. He was standing at a train station. The train doors were open, but he kept waiting, looking around. A voice said, "Why are you waiting?" He replied, "I'm waiting for the sign to get on." The voice laughed gently, "But the train is already here." Zion woke up, his heart racing. Was that just a dream, or was it something else? Zion couldn't stop thinking about the dream. "The train is already here." That line kept repeating in his head like a broken record. It didn't feel like just a dream. It felt like a message. But from who? Was it just his mind? He sat quietly, staring at his tea. Maybe it's just my imagination, he thought. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm trying to turn nothing into something. But something deep inside wouldn't agree. What if it's not nothing? What if God is speaking, I'm just not listening? A memory from years ago. Zion remembered something from his teenage years. He had once heard an old scholar say, "Sometimes the quiet voice in your heart is louder than the world, but we ignore it because it's not dramatic." Back then, Zion didn't understand it, but now it started to make sense, the inner nudge over. The next few days, small things began to happen. A podcast randomly played a speaker saying, "Stop asking for signs, start walking." A shopkeeper said to Zion, "You have a good energy, young man. Do something with it." A billboard read, "Your time is now." Every time, Zion paused. His heart beat faster, his chest felt warm. Was this just coincidence? Or was something bigger trying to reach him? Saad's advice. That evening, Zion called his friend Saad again. "Bro," he said, "weird things are happening." He explained the dream, the signs, the feelings. Saad listened patiently, then said, "Zion, maybe the real problem isn't God's silence. Maybe it's your noise. You're asking God to speak. But are you giving him space to?" Zion sat, still. That one sentence hit him like a wave. Noise in the head. Zion started noticing how loud his thoughts were. Every second, his mind was busy. What if I fail? What if this isn't the right time? What if I need more proof? He realized he was not waiting for a sign. He was waiting for guarantees, a walk in silence. The next day, Zion went for a long walk. No phone, no music, just silence. He sat under a tree in the park. Birds chirped, leaves danced, wind touched his skin, and in that stillness something happened. Memory came back. That one moment, 2 years ago at a family gathering, his cousin had told him, "You always notice people's feelings. You give great advice. You should be a counselor." Zion had laughed it off. "I'm not smart enough," he had replied. But now, under the tree, that moment came back, stronger than ever. Was that a sign? A seed planted long ago? Looking at his life, Zion started writing in his notebook. "People often come to me for advice. I feel alive when I help someone. I've always wanted to work with youth." Then he wrote, "What if the sign is in what I already love? What if God placed the answer inside me, not outside?" His hand shook. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time, he saw a picture forming. The whisper. That night, as Zion lay in bed, he whispered something he never had the courage to say before. "Ya Allah, if this desire in my heart is from you, then I will walk, even if I'm scared, even if I'm unsure." His body was still nervous, but his soul felt steady. What if? What if the thing we're asking for is already planted inside us? What if the sign we're waiting for isn't something loud, but something soft? Something already whispered into our hearts long ago. Zion woke up with a strange feeling. He had no new answers, no dream, no miracle, but something inside him felt calm. Like his soul had taken a small breath after years of holding it in. The message that changed everything while checking his email. Zion noticed something odd, a message titled, "Youth Support Center, Volunteer Needed." It wasn't a job, it wasn't paid, but something about it felt personal. He clicked it. It said, "Looking for someone who connects well with young people, someone who listens, someone who understands." His heart raced. Is this a coincidence? Or is this the door I've been waiting for? The conflict inside Zion wanted to go, But then fear showed up. Again. You're not qualified. You've never worked in this field. What if you fail? His mind started building walls again, but now he was aware of it. He closed his eyes and whispered, Ya Allah, if this is from you, help me walk through it. The visit that afternoon, Zion visited the Youth Support Center. It was a small building in an old neighborhood. Children laughed inside. Teens sat around, talking, sketching, playing chess. A woman greeted him. You must be Zion. Come in. She gave him a short tour, then asked, Why do you want to be here? Zion paused, then simply said, I don't. Know why? But I feel like I'm supposed to. She smiled. Sometimes that's enough. The start of something, Zion started volunteering, 1 day a week, then 2. He listened to teens who had no one. He helped kids with homework. He gave advice, simple, honest, real, and slowly, he started to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. But nothing was easy. 1 week, a boy named Sammy threw a chair at the wall. Another girl, Alina, walked, out crying after Zion asked her a question. Zion sat outside feeling defeated. Maybe I'm not made for this. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I imagined everything. Just then, an old janitor passed by and said, You're not here to fix them, son. You're here to show up. That's what most people never do. Zion didn't know it, but those words would stay with him forever. Looking back, Zion began to notice a pattern. Every delay in his life, every no, every wait, every silent night. It had led him here. If he had rushed before, if he had gotten what he wanted too soon, he wouldn't have noticed this door. He wouldn't have been ready to walk through it. The realization. One night, sitting by the window, Zion smiled. Ya Allah, I see it now. The delay wasn't denial. The silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every pain, every tear, every quiet night, they were shaping him for this exact moment. A visit from Saad, his friend Saad, came to visit. They sat on the rooftop drinking chai. I can't believe how you've changed, Saad said. Zion smiled. I didn't change. I just listened. Finally, Saad asked, But what if this isn't the final thing? What if this is just another step? Zion replied, Then I'll keep walking, one door at a time. Zion stood outside the youth center, holding a folder with lesson plans inside. But his hands were shaking, not from cold, but from fear. Something had changed. He had been helping here for weeks now, listening to teens, encouraging them, being a safe space for them. But now the manager had asked something new. Zion, we want you to lead a group session, just a short one, a topic of your choice. Zion smiled at her, but inside his heart dropped. Lead? Speak? Me? Old voices returned that night. Zion couldn't sleep. The old voices were back. What if you mess up? You're not trained. You're not smart enough. Who will even listen to you? The same. Fears he thought he had left behind. They came back louder than ever. The talk with God. He sat on his prayer mat whispering, Ya Allah. I was doing okay. Why this now? Why does walking in faith feel so scary? He waited, hoping for peace, but his chest still felt heavy. No answer. No sudden calm. Just silence. Doubt tries to take over. Zion thought about quitting. I'll just say I'm not ready. They'll understand. It's not a big deal. But something stopped him. A line from a book he once read came to mind. God never promised comfort. He promised purpose. And suddenly, it made sense. Faith Comfort Zion had believed that if something was from God, it would feel easy, smooth, safe. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe true faith wasn't about comfort, but courage. The morning of the session, he walked into the youth center, heart racing. The room was small. 6 teens sat on beanbags. The manager smiled and nodded at him. Zion took a deep breath. He started talking about emotions, about being honest with yourself, about staying strong through pain. Something happened. At first, the room was quiet, but then one boy, Gibran, spoke. I used to cry a lot at night, but I thought, guys aren't supposed to cry. Zion replied softly, crying doesn't make you weak. It means you're still trying. Something shifted in the room. One by one, the teens opened up. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. After the session, when the session ended, the manager looked at Zion with teary eyes. You have something special, she said. Please don't stop. Zion smiled. But this time it was different. He wasn't smiling to look confident. He was smiling because he believed it, a lesson for life. That night, Zion sat under the high stars and wrote, Faith won't always feel safe. Sometimes it will scare you, but that's how you grow. He remembered something his mother once said. When Allah pushes you into deep water, He's not trying to drown you. He's teaching you to swim. The bigger picture, Zion realized. If he had waited for fear to leave, he would have never taken that step. But by walking forward with fear, he learned something beautiful. Faith isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward anyway. Zion sat on the bench outside the youth center. It was quiet. No laughter, no teens, no sounds, just wind and street noise. He had come early that day, but his heart felt invisible. The shift in the room. Lately, things had changed. Some teens weren't opening up anymore. A few had stopped coming. Even the center manager seemed distant. Zion started wondering, am I doing something wrong? Am I still helping? Or have I become useless? A lonely feeling. That evening, Zion went home and stared at the ceiling. He didn't feel strong. He didn't feel guided. He didn't feel heard. He felt like God had stepped away. Even when he prayed, his heart was quiet. No warmth, no tears, no signs, just silence. The hidden struggle at dinner. His mom noticed his face. Zion, are you okay? She asked. He forced a smile, nodded, and said nothing. How could he explain to her that even while doing good work, he still felt invisible? A quiet prayer. Late that night, he whispered, Ya Allah, I'm still here, still walking, still trusting, but I feel like I don't matter. No. Reply, no dream, just quiet again. An unexpected message. The next day, as Zion was packing his bag to leave the center, a girl named Alina stopped at the door. She was usually silent, but today she held a small note in her hand. She gave it to him and left without a word. Zion opened it. It said, You listen, you don't judge. That saved me once. Thank you. His eyes filled with tears. The truth hits. He sat down, holding the note close. That one message. It reminded him of something he'd forgotten. Just because you don't see results doesn't mean you're not making a difference. The hidden work. Zion realized something that day. Maybe the most powerful work happens silently, without applause, without feedback, without recognition. Maybe God was still watching, still guiding, still smiling, even if the world was quiet. Remembering the prophet's story, Zion thought about a story from his childhood. When the prophet Muhammad, PBUH, invited people to Islam, many rejected him. He faced hate, loss, pain, and yet he kept going. Not because the world clapped for him, but because he trusted the one who sent him. The reminder. In the rain later that evening, it started to rain. Zayan stood at his window, watching the drops hit the glass. Each raindrop was silent, small, almost invisible, but together they nourished the earth. Maybe his work was like that too, not loud, not noticed, but quietly feeding someone's soul. Zayan walked slowly through the park after a long day at the youth center. No big moment had happened today. No breakthrough. No deep talk with a student. Just normal things. Small things. And yet, he felt strangely peaceful. The pressure to do something. Big in the beginning, Zayan thought he had to do something huge for God, like start an organization, write a book, change many lives. But now, he was starting to understand something different. Lesson from a teen one day while helping a boy named Arib with homework, the boy said, "I like when you sit next to me. You don't rush me. You just stay." Zayan was surprised. That simple action, just sitting, just staying, it meant something deep to that child. The lie of "it's not enough." That night, Zayan thought about how often we believe this. If it's not big, it's not worth it. If you didn't change the world today, you failed. But maybe God doesn't measure us by size. He measures us by sincerity. A flashback to his old life. Before coming to the youth center, Zayan remembered how frustrated he was. He used to pray, "God, show me something big. I want to make a difference. I want to do something that matters." Now, he was doing small things every day, and they were changing lives quietly. The ripple effect one teen named Sammy started opening up. He began helping other boys. Another girl, Alina, started drawing again. She said Zayan made her feel safe to feel. Zayan hadn't realized it, but his small steps were creating ripples. A talk with his mother. Over dinner, his mother smiled and said, "You look lighter, Zayan, like your heart is breathing again." He nodded. "I think I used to chase big things for myself. Now I'm happy to do small things for others." His mother said, "Allah loves small deeds done consistently. That's how He builds great people. When progress feels slow, of course, Zayan still had days where he felt like he wasn't moving fast. Some nights he would say, "Am I really growing? Am I really walking toward something?" But then he'd remember, even one step forward is still forward, even when it's slow, even when it's quiet, even when no one claps. The power of showing up won. Rainy afternoon, only one student came, just one. Zayan thought, should we cancel the session? But he stayed. He made chai, talked to the boy, listened. Later, that boy said, "This was the best day of my week." Zayan realized, you don't need a crowd to make an impact. Sometimes, one soul is enough. Walking in the dark, Zayan wasn't sure. What was next? He didn't have a 5-year plan. He didn't have a title or a promotion, but now he had something better. Peace, because he was finally walking by faith, not by fear, not by pressure, not by people's approval. Zayan sat alone on the rooftop, a soft wind blowing through the night air. The city lights sparkled below. It had been a long journey, weeks of effort, prayers, and quiet tears. But tonight, something felt different. Something felt clear. A surprise. Call that afternoon, Zayan received a phone call from the center's manager. Her voice was excited. "Zayan, we just got a letter from the city. They want to fund a youth mental health program, and they want you to help lead it." Zayan froze. "Me? Why me?" She laughed gently. "Because you've already started something powerful. And they see it." The flashbacks begin that night, sitting on the rooftop. Zayan's mind began to travel back to the day he first walked into the youth center, unsure, shy, just wanting to be useful, to the night he almost quit because he felt invisible, to the moment he held that small thank you note in his hand, to the quiet prayer he whispered in the dark, "God, I'll keep walking, even if I don't understand." And now, it makes sense Zayan realized something. Every small step had a purpose. Every tear, every delay, every silent prayer. God hadn't been ignoring him. God had been preparing him. What if he had quit? Zayan shivered at the thought. What if he had given up? What if he had waited for a clear sign and never walked forward? He wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be helping. He wouldn't be ready, trusting in the dark. He finally understood the truth. God doesn't always explain. He builds you in silence. He grows you in hidden places. Zayan had walked by faith, not knowing what was ahead. But now, it was all starting to make sense. A letter from a student. Before going to sleep, Zayan opened his bag. He found a folded piece of paper he hadn't noticed before. It was from Sammy, the shy boy he had helped months ago. It read, "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You made me feel seen. Thank you for showing me that I matter." Zayan's eyes filled with tears again. "Ya Allah, this is why you kept me walking." He was never walking alone. He finally saw it clearly. The silence wasn't God ignoring him. It was God training him, strengthening him, preparing him for more. And now, he was ready. It was a warm morning. Zayan stood outside the youth center, holding a small box in his hands. Inside it were letters, notes, drawings, and memories, each one a sign, but not a sign he had been waiting for, a sign he had become. The new beginning. The youth center was now preparing a new program, a mental health, space just for teens, and Zayan had been chosen to lead it, not because he was loud, not because he had degrees or fame, but because he showed up, again and again, with kindness, with care, with quiet faith. The full circle Zayan walked into the main room. On the wall, a new quote had been painted. "Sometimes, you're not waiting for a sign. You are the sign for someone else." His chest tightened. That quote was his story, remembering the silence. He thought back to the nights he cried in his room, asking God for a sign, for a voice, for a dream, for something. But now he saw it clearly. God didn't shout. He shaped. In the silence, God was building him into someone else's answer. The truth that changed. Everything Zayan finally understood. The thing we call delay is sometimes just development. The no answer is sometimes just God saying, "Keep going. You're becoming something bigger." A talk with Sammy. That afternoon, Sammy, one of the teens, came up to him. "I want to be like you one day," he said. Zayan smiled. "Be like yourself, Sammy. Just walk with God, even when it's dark." Sammy looked confused. "But how do I know God is still with me, when I feel nothing?" Zayan knelt to his level and whispered, "That's when he's closest. He's not just giving you a sign. He's making you the sign." Becoming the answer Zayan now knew. All those nights he begged for help. God was saying, "You will become help for someone else." All those times he felt weak. God was teaching him to carry others. Not the end, just the start. As the program officially opened, Zayan stood before the group of teens. No speech, no big drama, just one simple line from the heart. "I waited for a sign from God, but he was turning me into one for you." And then he began.